So not taking for granted is a very valuable orientation. And since without a deliberate orientation for it, we are moving through the day-to-day life in the routine. And if you don't take deliberately time for it, it never comes into consideration. There are so many other things which occupy us. And this is very, very important because we take everyone for granted. We take our relationships, connections, friends, family, the working place. We take so many things for granted. And you are considering different aspects every day will enable you to disentangle from this hypnotic state where you are unconsciously and automatically taking everything for granted and start recognizing something deeper, something valuable, something very, very precious. And that is the sense behind this reminder. So today we have the reminders, the session reminders. First we have it in English and then in German before we take any questions in English afterwards. Ja, wir kommen zu Fragen später, aber das kannst du ausschalten. Stumm. The two reminders are very, very supportive for anybody who wants to get clear, be in tune with the reality, and allow the mystery, allow the divine, allow the potential of understanding and love in you to become alive. That is why these reminders are not just some rituals which you do to feel a little bit better. They are basically considering the very foundations of our life process as human beings. And the first one is a very simple, down-to-earth factor, because we are used to taking everything for granted. And exactly that is our challenge. Because when we take everything for granted, we don't realize how precious everything is. When we take everything for granted, we don't realize that any moment everything can change. And it is the realization that all that what we take for granted can change, it can be lost, it can be totally different, which gives you the deeper sensibility to see the preciousness of life, the preciousness of everything. For example, if you take your body for granted, it's fine and able to move and act freely, and normally when everything is going well, we take it for granted. Only when we are sick, when we don't have the possibility to eat certain things or drink certain things or move in a certain way, then we start realizing, oh, how nice it is when I can be again, so to speak, normal. But if you look more carefully, everywhere else we are taking each other for granted. We are taking our talents for granted. And if you extend it more into the reality, we are taking the sunshine for granted. We are taking the water for granted. We are taking for granted that the animals and plants and the whole ecosystem is there for us. But the more we look, the more we can also see how vulnerable everything is, how fragile everything is, and how everything can any moment be different. In this incredibly, ungraspably, infinitely vast universe, this small planet Earth, existing with so much life, so much beauty, so much playfulness, so much potential of love, it is very, very rare. But we don't take it in a careful consideration. We take it for granted. I think the seasons are happening, and the earth is always producing the nourishment which we need. The plants are growing, and fruits and vegetables all are taking place. It is very important for us to consider every little detail of our life very consciously, so that we recognize that everything is a present and everything has come into manifestation because there is so much care, so much intelligence, so much concern, so much aesthetic sense, so much depth of understanding, that all are coming together in such a tune that we feel at home. And look at our body, look at each cell, look at each organ, consider it. It's not just to only get into wondering, it is really seeing what a mystery it is, how ungraspable it is for our normal way of perception. So, not taking for granted is a very valuable orientation, and since without a deliberate orientation for it, we are moving through the day-to-day life in the routine. And if you don't take deliberately time for it, it never comes into consideration. There are so many other things which occupy us. And this is very, very important, because we take everyone for granted. We take our relationships, connections, friends, family, the working place. We take so many things for granted. And you are considering different aspects every day will enable you to disentangle from this hypnotic state where you are unconsciously and automatically taking everything for granted, and start recognizing something deeper, something valuable, something very, very precious. And that is the sense behind this reminder. So at least 5 times a day, take deliberately time to consider any aspect. If you are, for example, doing that before you eat, consider the food. Consider your appetite. Consider the taste. It's just anywhere you can bring any aspect of the reality into consideration, which we normally take for granted. In a normal social life, when we are used to wishing each other good appetite, as it is the custom, when you are not considering that it has something very deep behind it also, because you can have a good appetite or not have a good appetite. If you are unhealthy, if your body is not in a good shape, you don't have so much appetite. So in a way, through wishing good appetite, you're also being wished that have good health. Be well. So as we start considering, life becomes more miraculous, more rich, more deep. And this you have to deliberately bring. Because recognize, without your taking deliberately at least 5 minutes for each consideration, 5 times a day, you can plan it in certain ways, or you can let it spontaneously, but stay behind it. For example, you can say, okay, when I wake up, I take time for one. Before or after breakfast, I take time for one. Before going for lunch or after the lunch. And in this way, you can plan for the day 5 times. But you can also just leave it loose and take, but be deliberate. Take these times, 5 times, 5 minutes at least, to consider. That will be very, very valuable. The second reminder is very much connected with this, and in a way it is enhancing the whole depth of it. We are often going about life in a logical, rational way, and is limited and trapped by our knowledge, believing that we know this, we know that. And due to our practical functional knowledge, we lose the connection to the mystery behind it. And that is very, very important, that we connect by reconsidering the origin of that what you have in front of you. If you are, for example, seeing a plant, from where does this plant come? From where does its colors come? How does it come to this, that such a tiny plant brings so much colors or fragrance? Consider deliberately and let yourself penetrate deeper into towards the source, towards the mystery. Because when you go wakefully and deliberately into questioning like that, you will start seeing the limitation and the one-sidedness and even the falseness of our knowledge. Our knowledge may be practical, but it is not the truth. And when you can consciously bring the attention to this factor, that our knowledge is relative, we cannot settle with it. We have to use it in practical functioning, it has a relevance, but yet we really don't know. I have heard a small anecdote where one child was asking the British author D.H. Lawrence, why are the leaves green? He was a little bit considering careful, because he didn't want to tell the child it is because of the chlorophyll or the scientific explanation, which just puts another name there and explains it away, but does not really bring it into the depth. Because you say chlorophyll, and then you can ask, why is chlorophyll green? You can go on, and then when you consider and question more deeply, then you realize we are playing with words, we are playing with ways to practically function with it, but the source remained mysterious. And in this anecdote, it was like that he was considering what to say to this child. And then the child itself said, the leaves are green because they are green. And he said, yes, that's how it is. The leaves are green because they are green. It's not an explanation. It was very simple in a childlike quality of seeing it. And we have to be aware that our knowledge is very relative. And because we all agree with certain knowledge, and function with it, and can work with it, and in a relative level, it has great significance. But, for example, when we say fire, we say the fire is capable of burning everything, and it is good that we know that. It's good that we use that knowledge in the practical functioning. But yet, from where does the fire come? How come the fire can manifest? Because the source, the mystery behind the creator, whatever way we want to put it, has made it possible that fire can manifest. And it is the same thing when you put a seed on the ground and it becomes a plant and bears flowers and fruits. We see the apparent aspect of it, but don't often bring it into consideration from where does it come? How come that this small seed is containing so much secrets, so much information, so much mysterious potential, that from this it can create a new plant which produces so many fruits and so many seeds. So it can gradually create a whole forest. And this is part of the mystery, part of the wonder. From where does it all come? So when you ask and reconsider, where does it come from? And go deeper, that will be very valuable. And this is the second reminder. Again, take at least 5 times a day, at least 5 minutes each, to reconsider any aspect which you see in reality and ask, where does it come from? And don't be just settling with some kind of superficial explanation, because then you are not going deep enough, that's all. Because when you go deep enough, you will come to see and feel a different depth of reality, which is beyond the logic and rationality, where you see that our knowledge is very limited. It is relative. Even if it is practical and relevant, it is not the truth. So work with both these reminders as wholeheartedly, not reducing it into a ritual, but recognizing that it has a great potential in it, because it can help you to get free from the hypnotic entanglement in the knowledge and in the ego. Because when you can realize that the ego is just part of the construction of knowledge and beliefs, and that it is not absolute reality, you cannot so easily come directly to that. But when you start considering in different ways from different sides, then it becomes more and more transparent to you. And these 2 reminders will help you very much in a graceful, in a wakeful, in a beautiful way to awaken to the wonder that life is, wonder that you are, and the mystery and the beauty and the joy and the playfulness, the creativity behind the whole manifestation of life.
Go to our website to learn something about the New Life Surfing Holiday Seminar starting the 21st of August 2026 till the 5th of September 2026. The Life Surfing Podcast will be back soon. In the meantime, don't forget to follow us on Spotify.